RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, news, competitions, whatever's on your mind, it is all on the tables. We now throw to Dave Palumbo. Dave, yesterday you did a video. I don't know if to call it shocking news, but it was news, maybe news that some had expected for quite some time, that Flex Lewis announcing that this Olympia will be his final 212 show. Rumors abound of what his plans are going to be in 2020 going forward. But if you want to expound a little upon that for those who haven't seen the video yet.
You know, last week I got a text message from one of the guys, who emails me a lot, and he's like, says, this is Flex Lewis's last Olympia. And I said, where'd you hear this? And he's like, I think he heard it from Ian Valier. I don't even know how, it was a weird source like that. I'm like, I don't know. I said, let me text Flex, because Flex and I will text each other, on occasion. So I text him. Actually, he had just texted me early that day a question about something. So I said, Flex, is this your last year doing the 212? And he's like, oh, rumors, don't believe everything you hear, or something like that. And I said, all right. So I kind of dismissed it. And then a couple days later, he posted this on Instagram. So obviously he had known about it. And, I think he's just burnt out, at this point. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that he wants to quit bodybuilding. I think he's just like, if I win this year, it's 7 times I won the Olympia. I can't gain any more weight. I love bodybuilding and lifting. I'm still a young man. I want to put more size on, but I can't because I can't make the weight. And every year I come in and people criticize me because I'm too flat or I don't look the best I looked. And then 2 weeks later, everyone says, oh, why didn't you look like this? No, well, the guy's got to make a weight class. So I think what he figures is he's got nothing left to prove in the 212 anymore. And I think he's going to he's talking about taking 2 years, not competing until 2020, but I think we'll see him in 19. I think he can easily do an open show and possibly win it. Probably if he did one at the end of this year, he probably could do it. But certainly by next year, he could definitely do it. And I think we're going to see that. And I'm glad, it's exciting. He's the kind of guy that's not afraid to lay it on the line. He doesn't like to take the conservative route. He has nothing left to prove. If he never competed again, he has enough businesses to make enough money to support himself. So he doesn't really need it for that. If he's going to compete again, it's going to be because he wants to compete again and under his terms. And I think that's a really good way to do it, because that's the smart way to do it. He's lucky. He's the Olympia champ, so he has the ability to do that, and he's got money coming in from all his businesses. I actually found out something else. I didn't really realize this because he was asking me about bearded dragons, which are a type of a reptile, because he's known as the Welsh dragon. And I said, you really should I was trying to get him into snake breeding. I didn't know this. He used to breed birds when he was 17 years old. Finches and parakeets and parrots and homing pigeons and all kinds of, or racing pigeons. He said he was making more money breeding birds than he was from his contracts he had later in life as a bodybuilder, which is kind of ironic. So he's the kind of guy that could do it all. I think I relate well to him because we have the same kind of unusual obsessions that we get into. And I know he was breeding dogs for a while. He still might be. So I think that Flex is a great personality in our business. I think he's a good role model. And I think the fact that he's making a decision that's this out of the clear blue sky is going to be good for the business and good for bodybuilding.
So again, that video right now at RxMuscle.com and the RxMuscle YouTube channel. Let's go to the questions. The first 2 questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, what do you think are the top 3 exercises to build intercostals? If you could put it in order, which would be the best first, do you think it is something we should train?
Intercostals are not the external obliques that we think down here. They're right under your pec muscles. If you get really lean, I'm always lean, you can see there's 3 little finger-like muscles here that kind of sit across your ribs, and they kind of connect the pecs. It looks like they connect the pecs to the abdominal cavity. And they look really cool when you're in shape. Dorian Yates had huge intercostals. If you remember back in the day when he would hit that front lat spread, they would just pop right out. And he was a big pullover guy. He used to like to use that old Nautilus machine and do pullovers for it. He was convinced that built huge, big lats and gave you better width. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but they certainly definitely work the intercostals up there, without a doubt. A lot of people confuse serratus with intercostals. Intercostals kind of like, rib muscles. The serratus kind of are the ones that kind of stick out there, those finger-like muscles. But the muscles that we're talking about are worked by definitely dumbbell pullovers, machine pullovers, anything where you're in a stretched out position, you're going to see that. Even if you're doing like crunches with a rope, you're going to work those muscles to some degree. Should they be worked? I think if they're being indirectly worked through some of these exercises that I just mentioned, I think that's fine. They're not really going to add a tremendous amount of size to your body. They might add some detail to your physique, but there's no reason to be massively training these things like it's its own muscle group. That's a little bit of overkill.
Second question again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, how or what in lipolyze curbs appetite?
There's a metabolite of olive oil called OEA that has some appetite suppressing effects, which works pretty effectively. Also, Irvingia, is an herb, also known as African mango, which doesn't curb appetite directly, but what it does is it makes you more sensitive to the hormone leptin. A lot of us have heard the term leptin. Leptin is released after you eat by the brain. It basically tells your body that you're not hungry anymore. It shuts off appetite. Ironically, in people who are very obese, they have the highest leptin levels, which doesn't make sense because you would think, well, if there's a lot of leptin there, you shouldn't be hungry. So why are these people eating so much and getting so overweight? The problem is that they're not responding to the leptin. Their leptin receptors are not very sensitive. So their body keeps cranking out more and more leptin and their body can't respond to it. What African mango does is it actually sensitizes the leptin receptor to leptin so that your body it'll shut down your appetite. Those are two ingredients that have an appetite curbing effect, and it curbs appetite, but it doesn't make you not want to eat, and that's another problem. I think some people, you don't want to not ever want to eat, because I know people who diet that just can't eat, they feel nauseous. It doesn't do that. It just shuts down your appetite when you don't need to eat. So if you've eaten something, boom, your brain releases leptin, you respond to it, appetite is curbed.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. First one from Hoodman521. Dave, why don't guys and girls try to achieve that freaking post-show look on stage rather than the flat look? Most people prefer how they look 3 days after a show in the gym versus on stage. Full, hydrated, and vascular. Is it that much of a gamble?
I would go to the gym like a week after a show and I'd be like 15 pounds heavier. I'd be like 290 and people would be like, yes, you should have competed. All the people who don't know anything about competing telling you that. Being blown up in a tank top in the gym and having veins everywhere is not going to win shows. It looks good in the gym. It's freaky. I'm sure if you take pictures, it's like, whoa, this is cool. You put yourself up on stage like that with guys that are shrink wrapped, dry, hard, and showing tons of detail, and you're going to say that guy is about a week or two out from competition. You might say he looks good, but people are going to say he's out. He's off. He's a little too full. He's not dry. He's not showing as much detail and graininess. There's a difference between a gym look and a stage look. Steve Weinberg once said to me, he goes, in a tank top, he goes, you could be Mr. Olympia. He goes, and that was a compliment to me. But, when I took my shirt off, I didn't have the tiniest waist. I didn't have the greatest taper. I just genetically, structurally, I wasn't that good. But in the gym with a tank top, you don't see that. Jimmy Quinn, too, in the gym with a tank top, you'd swear he was Mr. Olympia. He was huge. And that's just life. And so you have to differentiate between the stage and the gym. There's two different looks, and you can't try to duplicate what you look like in the gym with a pump and do that on stage. It doesn't translate.
Good one here from Stolen Duck 2. You might want to take a second before you answer this one. Dave, in your honest opinion, did Kevin Levrone only prove himself wrong with his comeback?
Anyone who comes back at over the age of 50 is not wrong and can never be wrong. They can only be a winner at that point because he came back. He brought a level of muscularity a lot of people thought he couldn't get back. He raised his popularity through the roof. His followers were insane on social media. He got a generation who never heard of him to understand who he was, appreciate his legacy that he left, and get a chance to actually see him compete one more time, even if he wasn't at his best. So no, I don't think it was a bad move, just like I don't think what Flex Wheeler did was a bad move. Thank God, nothing happened with his health and everything like that, and he did everything safely. But, he gave the fans a chance to see him one more time. Even if it wasn't the way you wanted to see him, at least you'll remember, oh, you know what? I've seen Flex Wheeler on stage, and a lot of people never got, our generation that's out here and right now that's competing really didn't get that chance to see them. So now they did. So I think those comebacks are good for the sport. I don't think necessarily anyone really thought that they were going to, aside from me predicting LeBron was going to win the Olympia, I don't think anyone else thought that they were going to do anything. So it added a little bit of excitement for the weekend.
Golden physique outside of natural diuretics, how do you combat massive water retention in your ankles?
Well, first of all, why are you getting massive water retention in the ankles, number one? Now, is it because you just got off a show, a contest, and you're rebounding water-wise? If that's the case, it's a good idea to stay on some diuretics to lose that water, whether it be diazides, herbal diuretics, whatever you want to use. If you're walking around in the off-season with crazy swollen ankles, that could be a problem. You might want to go get yourself checked out. Blood pressure might be too high. Your heart may not be pumping efficiently, or you just might be too overweight, which is something that happens as well. And the blood pools down in your legs and it can't get back to your heart, So it's not good. It's once in a while to be a little swollen if you get off an airplane or you're on your feet all day is one thing. When you're walking around with crazy swelled pitting edema all the time, that's not good.
Matt Tracy, life, I'm considering getting a colon hydrotherapy 2 weeks out, yes or no?
I once got a colonic, once, it was also about 2 weeks out from a show. And I felt good for like a day, but the problem was that it comes all back again, and you can't do it right before a show because it's too irritating to your stomach lining and stuff like that. To your colon lining, and that could backfire on you as well. So my answer to that question is I probably wouldn't do it. If you took a fiber supplement, a high-potency fiber supplement like Fiberlyze, twice a day, you wouldn't need to do a colonic because you're constantly cleansing your colon on a regular basis. And the longer you're on a fiber supplement like that, the less fecal retention you have all the time. I can't tell you how many people don't empty their colon completely. They think they go to the bathroom on a regular basis. They think they're emptying themselves, but they're actually retaining a lot of fecal matter because they just don't have enough fiber in their diet. So once again, try Fiberlyze. I promise you, once you try it, you won't ever stop using it because it's going to be that good for you.
Jay Hampel, Dave, I know you're a big advocate of taking time off the gym at least once a year or being on vacation, etc. But how would you deal with the negative psychological or physiological aspects of it, feeling like your body is looking like crap, losing your gains, etc.?
I have to admit, when I was competing, I could never take off 2 weeks from the gym. I think maybe once I did it when I had my gynecomastia removed, but other than that, I just couldn't do it. I like the gym, so I maybe take 3 or 4 days off, and then I would go back. And that's the one thing I probably regretted. I think if I would have taken more days off, given my body some rest after shows, it probably would have benefited me more. I don't think it would have changed anything, maybe, but maybe it would have. Who knows? So I think what you have to understand is that taking days off is not showing weakness. It's not setting you back if it's planned, okay? If you're just one of these guys that every other week you're missing 5 days from the gym, that's not good, obviously. But if you know you've trained pretty hard for a month or 2 in a row, 3 months in a row, pretty hard, and you feel like you need some time off, taking 4 or 5 days off from the gym, a week off from the gym, is not going to set you back. If anything, you'll be bigger, you'll grow better. I guarantee it. I wish I had this knowledge when I was competing, because I know it would have benefited me tremendously. I always rationalize, well, I only train one body part a day, and I take 2 days off a week, so I should be fine. But the truth of the matter is that even that's intense. Even that's tough for your body to every single week recover from that. So at least once a year, it's probably a good idea to take 3 or 4 weeks off from the gym, if you can do it, if you can handle it mentally. If not, take a week or 2 off at least.
Reckless Genetics, why do people recommend taking really high dose of Electrode last few weeks of a prep? A friend did this and had blood work showing no estrogen in his body at all, only other people to show numbers that were those who underwent chemo. Also, high dose of Proviron leading into a show, does it work? So let's go with the first one about Electrode leading into a show.
Here's the deal with estrogen control. your body is going to convert a certain amount of your testosterone that you're ingesting or injecting or producing naturally into estrogen and DHT. If you take an aromatase inhibitor like letrozole or aromasin or Femara, or letrozole is Femara, excuse me, or Arimidex, you're going to block the conversion of some of that testosterone into estrogen, okay, which is good. If you take too much of an aromatase inhibitor, you will inhibit all the conversion of testosterone to estrogen, in which case your estrogen levels will be so low that, number one, you won't have a sex drive. Number two, your androgen receptors lose their sensitivity, okay, so you go flat usually. And number three, you don't have a sex drive. I know I said it twice. That's a problem. No one wants to feel like that. It basically chemically castrates you. Not good, and you don't look good on it. So once again, you want your estrogen low, but you want it on the normal side of low, not on the pathological or the too low side. Once again, because your body won't respond. You need a little estrogen to sensitize those androgen receptors to sex drive, to muscle building, to all the other processes that are involved with androgen use in the body. And that's just the way it is. Doing too much of anything is no good. You gotta find balance.
Barbarian B, Dave, what body fat would you let yourself go to in the off season? What would you say is maximum you'd recommend?
Well, when I competed and I was trying to grow, I said to myself, let's see how much food it takes for you to get fat. If you hit that point where you start getting fat, we back down. In the course of my bodybuilding career, I never found the amount of food that it took me to get fat, which means I never got fat. So I don't know. I just basically couldn't eat any more food. But I would find a way to eat enough to grow. But at some point, I couldn't eat enough anymore. Because I kept saying, well, what if I ate more? Would I grow faster? Or would I get fat? I couldn't eat anymore. There was no more food I could eat. I just couldn't physically put any more food down my throat. And that's the way it is. Now, to ask you for the average person, what's a body fat that's acceptable and not acceptable, I would say once your body fat as a guy starts creeping over 15%, you're starting to get sloppy. If you're over 20%, you're way too high, okay? I think that the ideal range to stay in is probably anywhere from, obviously under 10 would be great, but most people can't get under 10% body fat. From anywhere from 10 to 17% body fat is the highest I would go.
Everything or nothing training, Tremblin and its effects on mental health, i.e. depression, intelligence, or ability to think straight. My question is, does Tren cause issues with the brain? And if so, can it be combated?
You said Tremblin, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The problem with Tremblin is that it's 4 times more androgenic than testosterone. That means it has 4 times the androgen content. Androgens are what make you aggressive. They're what stimulate you. They're what make you hold more glycogen in the muscle. They make you strong. You put 4 times what you naturally have on a gram for gram basis, like of testosterone, into your body. Now you're almost like an insane person. It's enhancing everything in your brain and making you move faster. It's making your metabolism go quicker. It's moving your GI tract faster. That's why a lot of people get upset stomachs and diarrhea from using Tren. It makes your brain work faster, so you can't relax and sleep at night. But it makes you strong. It makes you retain more glycogen in the muscle. It makes you look good, so guys deal with it. But it does have a lot of side effects, and that's a problem. And you got to realize that, and it's dose dependent. So recently, when I work with my guys, I've been actually having them use less Trenbolone. Okay, I know the old or maybe the new way of thinking is do no testosterone, just do tons of Trenbolone. That's not going to work. I'm telling you, you're going to wind up fucking killing your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. You're going to get into a fight. You're going to break up. Whatever the case may be, it's the ultimate relationship ender, this drug. But it works. So my advice to you is just to stay on low dose. 50 milligrams 3 times a week or 50 milligrams every other day is more than enough.
Muscle by Mona's Dave, will you be at the Olympia this year?
That's the $100,000 question. I don't know, to be honest. I haven't thought about it yet. If we get a sponsor, I probably might make my trip out there. Obviously, if we don't, I think I might just hang tight on the homestead, with the kids and everything like that. I haven't decided. I like the Olympia. It's probably the only weekend I really do enjoy going to, aside from the Arnold. I'll think about it. I haven't got to the point where I actually absolutely have to make a decision yet, but we'll see. It's going to be a good year to go. Obviously, Phil Heath going for number 8, and a lot of other, classic physique taken off through the roof, the 212, it's Flex Lewis's last year. So it certainly would be a nice year to go. But, I might just call it quits and take the whole year off and then start again in 2019, back going to some of the big shows again. We'll see though. I won't say no yet.
Gunse 1ZW, Dave, I'm having issues with my right knee. I had surgery on it back in 2006, ACL, meniscus. Whenever I'm doing heavy leg extensions, I'm feeling pain in the middle portion of the knee. Squats and leg press aren't bad, only if I wrap my knees. Do you think running BPC 157 will be a good idea, or should I get things checked out first?
I mean, you can use the healing peptides. BP 157, the TB 500 is good. Definitely, if there's injury, you're going to heal. But the question is, why are you getting irritation? Why are you getting tendonitis or whatever, chondromalacia, whatever kind of inflammation you're getting under that kneecap? Why is it occurring? Usually it's biomechanical, meaning that the angle with which your muscles are moving, there's some kind of rubbing going on. Now, if it's under the kneecap, it could be like a little chondromalacia, that's the rubbing away of the cartilage under the kneecap. If your muscles are just misaligned a little bit, or the leg press is a weird angle, you might just be getting rubbing under there. And in which case, you might want to try to change the leg extension machine you're using, to change the angle a little bit. Usually, I've seen this happen to people before. And the classic sign that there's really not anything seriously wrong is that you can squat and leg press, because you can change your position. Think about it. Leg extension, you're very locked into a certain position. With the squat, the deadlift, the leg press, the hack squat, you can kind of position your feet where you get a comfortable position so the kneecap sits in a nice place. You might just have a tracking problem with the kneecap, which sits directly on top of the or the patella that sits directly on top of the femur is rotated or moved over an inch or two, in which case you're getting rubbing. So that's why when you wrap your knees, you're kind of wrapping your kneecap into the right position, and then it feels good when you're training it. So you might want to lay off leg extensions for a couple of weeks, just do the stuff that doesn't hurt, let that heal up, see if that works. If not, you might have to then go to maybe get some ART done, active release techniques, maybe some massage in that area, kind of break up the scar tissue.
Matt Tracy, I struggle keeping volume heading into a show. What do you think of maintaining eating oatmeal 2 weeks out prior to a show? I have it with a meal, one with stevia, small banana, and 1 tablespoon of almond butter.
I don't know if eating a bowl of oatmeal is going to solve your fullness problem, to be honest with you. First of all, you have to figure out why you're flat. You can be flat because you're not eating enough fats just as easily as you can be flat because you're not eating enough carbs. So I would try to replace the fats first, especially since you're on a contest diet. Okay, and then if that doesn't work, then you can play with adding little small amounts of carbs throughout the day, increasing whatever you're eating, if you're eating any, to see if that will fill you out a little bit. But I wouldn't start doing crazy knee-jerk stuff.
Francesco, MEN, is it a good idea to cut fiber lines last week's of contest prep or not?
No, that's when you need it the most. That's when people get constipated, when they carb up and they take the water out. No, you keep the fiber lines right up to the day of to the day before the show. The last dose of fiber lines should be that. If you had a Saturday morning show, your last dose would be Friday night. Right before you stop drinking, do a dose of fiber lines so you keep everything moving through you. It's a great feeling when you don't have to ever stress about going to the bathroom. You know you're going to go, and that's once I started using a psyllium-based fiber supplement, and then I made my own eventually. That's when I never had stress anymore competing, because I always knew my stomach would be flat.
Interesting one here from the Atomic Beast. It's a question that we get in, I guess, different iterations. Why do you think most open class competitors don't have deeply cut abs like classic and men's physique competitors? Jay had very tight abs, but besides Rulli in the current lineup, why don't the others have blocky abs?
I think the guys are just not dieting as hard because they want to come in. They're so worried about coming in big, or they're in shape and then they're over carbing or maybe using insulin, and they're blurring the definition on their abs. Because a lot of these guys have great rest of their bodies. Their glutes are in, their hamstrings are shredded, and then they have like these kind of like watery looking abs. I think that's from the drugs they're taking. I really do.
On Point Fitness Trainers, your thoughts, Dave, on raw juicing? I started raw fruit and vegetable juicing a few days ago along with a healthy, balanced diet. But would it be optimal for longevity and health to juice daily, or is it just not necessary?
Look, juicing is good. there's no doubt about it. You can get some good nutrients. A lot of people who juice, though, use a lot of fruits. They use apples and carrot. Well, carrots are not fruits, but carrots have a high sugar content. And those high sugar, fruits and vegetables will add a lot of calories and a lot of unnecessary empty carbs to the effect of what you're doing. So if you're picking just green stuff to juice, cucumbers, celery, some limited amount of broccoli maybe, kale, you'll be fine. If you're using though the juicer as an excuse to make yourself a fruit smoothie, then you're probably just making things worse because you're putting a tremendous amount of sugar into your body.
K. Simon L. Dave, I hate this show more than all right. If creatinine is commonly increased due to extra muscle mass, meat and proteins, and creatine supplements, what kind of levels do you usually see in top open competitors? What is the typical GFR you see from them? How do you approach their plan differently?
Well, taking creatine is not going to raise creatinine necessarily, okay? A lot of these upper level guys have high creatinine levels on blood work, which indicates that the kidneys are not filtering as well, and it could be due to high blood pressure, it could be due to eating a ton of protein, it could be due to breaking down an enormous amount of muscle from the gym. So you can't just knee-jerk say, this guy's a kidney failure because he's got high creatinine. No, he's probably just stressing his body out a little bit, and it's probably very, very reversible, and I've seen that happen many a time. People contact me because they panic. I send them my detox program, 3-week detox. I said, take this. One of the ingredients, one of the supplements I recommend you take during the detox is the kidney stuff. Stay on that for another 3 months after the 2 or 3 week detox that you do, and usually every single person I've helped, their creatinine comes down from that. So just if you have a problem with creatinine, you can always shoot me an email, and I'll be more than happy to give you some advice.
D Wood 20. I only have access to a diuretic that flushes both potassium and sodium. Is it still okay to use a quarter tab the night before, or should I stay away completely?
Yeah, I think look, I don't like to use Lasix and Demodex because you're right. It does. This guy's right. It does deplete both potassium and sodium. Whereas Diazide only depletes sodium and it retains potassium. But sometimes you can't get what you can't get, and if you're only taking maybe 1 or 2 halves of a Lasix, of 20 milligrams, maybe twice a day, you're not going to really cramp anyway. So, and you're not, even if you did, it wouldn't be because of potassium loss, because you're not going to lose that much from taking a mild diuretic like that. So a little bit of Lasix is okay. If you start getting carried away and taking 40 milligrams 5 times a day, you're going to wind up in the hospital.
Couple of more. This one from Howard 9. What were the compounds you put Boston on when he put on the most size? It was mentioned in a recent random video along the lines of GRPH, IGF, etc.
No, when he was a teenager and he gained a lot of weight up to 21 years old, he was on the basics. He was on testosterone, equipoise, we would switch to testosterone, Tremblin, testosterone, DECA. He was doing a little bit of GH, He wasn't excessively using anything until he got carried away and got too used to it, and then he just took off and started doing kooky stuff. But initially he was doing the right thing, and he was looking good, and he was growing, and he was responding, and I wish he would have stayed in that direction. But Boston does what Boston wants to do.
Last question, this one from Mike Rock. Dave, what is your current training routine?
You want to know what my routine was this week? I got to the gym today. After I got my teeth cleaned at the dentist, I snuck over to the gym and called Amanda, my wife. I said, can I go to the gym? Do you mind? She's like, fine. So I did my whole entire body because I know there's no way she's going to let me go tomorrow, because usually I go Mondays and either Thursday or Monday and Friday. So I did everything. I did every body part. I don't know how I did. I got it all done in an hour because I'm not lifting that heavy. And I'm done. I'm done for the week. That's just the way it is. So I structure much differently nowadays. I don't do but back in the day, I used to do I told people I used to do an 8-day split. So over 8 days, I would train 6 of those days. 2 of those days would be, I do a little extra calf work. But I like to have the extra time off to allow my body to recover properly,
That is going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. For Dave Palumbo and our producer, Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next week.